Imagine this, you're 6 months pregnant and still looking after 23 children. This was the reality for many royal women throughout history. For centuries, royal women weren't merely expected to have children. They were seen as baby-making machines, trapped in a relentless cycle of pregnancy and loss. Their value was measured almost entirely by their ability to bear children. Married off as teenagers, they faced a brutal routine: conceive, give birth, hand the baby to nurses, recover just enough, and then return to the royal bedchamber to start all over again. Instead of fearing menopause, they eagerly awaited it, as it was their only path to freedom. In this episode, we explore the top 8 queens in history who gave birth to the most children. Born in 1593 to Persian nobles, Mumtaz Mahal married the future Emperor Shah Jahan at the age of 19, while Shah Jahan had 2 other political wives, fathering 1 child with each as duty required. His heart belonged solely to Mumtaz. He regarded her as the most beautiful and virtuous woman alive. She wasn't just his wife. She was his closest advisor, traveling with him everywhere, even on military campaigns. He spoiled her with incredible wealth and the highest salary ever awarded to a Mughal empress. Together they had 14 children, though only 7 survived to adulthood. Among them were the influential Jahanara Begum and Aurangzeb, who would one day become emperor. Mumtaz's final childbirth was a nightmare. After 30 agonizing hours delivering her 14th child, Gahar, she bled to death. Heartbroken, Shah Jahan channeled his grief into constructing the magnificent Taj Mahal as her tomb. He was buried beside her 27 years later. His death sparked a brutal war among his 4 surviving sons, with Aurangzeb emerging as the next ruthless Mughal emperor. Born a German princess in 1744, Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz is known as Britain's first queen with distant African ancestry traced back 13 generations. She married King George III at the age of 17. Surprisingly, they cherished their quiet family life together far more than the royal parties. Charlotte wasted no time, delivering her first child, future King George IV, within a year of their wedding. Over the next 21 years, she bore 15 children: George IV, Frederick, William IV, Charlotte, Edward, father of Queen Victoria, Augusta, Elizabeth, Ernest, Augustus, King of Hanover, Adolphus, Mary, Sophia, Octavius, Alfred, and Amelia. Charlotte despised being constantly pregnant. While expecting her 14th child, she wrote desperately, "I do and think a prisoner could wish more ardently for his liberty than I wish to be rid of my burden. I would be happy if I knew it was the last time." Despite her struggles, she loved her children deeply, and they adored her. Tragically, her young sons Alfred, age 2, and Octavius, age 4, died of smallpox. Remarkably, for the 1700s, the rest survived to adulthood. Perhaps traumatized by her own experiences, she fiercely protected her daughters, delaying their marriages, some never married, while others waited until their 40s to avoid constant pregnancies. None of her daughters had surviving children. In later years, King George III suffered from severe mental illness, forcing their eldest son to rule as Prince Regent. Charlotte died at 74, surrounded by many of her children. This Spanish princess, named after her famous great-grandmother, Eleanor of Aquitaine, married the future King Edward I of England when she was just 13 and he was 15. Edward was a fierce warrior, conquering Wales and battling Scotland, but at home he was a devoted and faithful husband. Eleanor was remarkably resilient, traveling with Edward on harsh military campaigns while bearing 16 children. Her first child, born when she was only 13, died within days. Her subsequent babies, Catherine and Joan, also succumbed shortly after birth, tragically common for young mothers whose bodies weren't ready. 2 sons, John and Henry, survived birth but died before age 10. Her 6th child, Eleanor, was the first to reach adulthood. While on crusade with the king, she delivered a stillborn daughter. By this time, Eleanor's body had become exhausted. Disaster struck when her only living son and Edward's heir, Alonso, died of illness at age 10. Ultimately, she endured one final pregnancy and gave birth to her last child, Edward, who would tragically become the ill-fated King Edward II in 1307. While marching with her husband in northern England, Eleanor contracted malaria, her weary body could not fight it off. Her children were summoned to say their goodbyes before she passed away at 48. King Edward, utterly heartbroken, ordered 12 beautiful stone crosses to be erected along the route of her funeral procession from Lincoln to London. In total, she had given birth to 16 children. Karen, nicknamed Anna, was the daughter of a Turkish prince. She married King Leo II of Armenia sometime before 1262. Records commend her wonderful soul, beautiful appearance, and her role as a good friend to her husband in times of trouble and joy. She gave birth to an astonishing 16 children, including 10 single babies and 3 sets of twins. Her first unnamed son died young, as did her second and third children. Constantine and Phaimi, her fourth child, Hethum II, became king of Armenia, but was later murdered. Next came Isabella, and then the formidable Toros III, who succeeded his murdered brother but also met a tragic end. Queen Karen's final pregnancy resulted in another set of twins. Eshen, who would become king and also be murdered, and Alan, completely exhausted after so many births. Queen Karen chose to become a nun and retired to a monastery, where she eventually passed away in 1285, born in 1717. Maria Theresa became Holy Roman Empress. At 19, she married Francis Stephen, Duke of Lorraine, and fell deeply in love. Unfortunately, he was unfaithful throughout their marriage. As women faced restrictions in ruling parts of the empire, she made Francis co-emperor but kept him out of significant meetings holding the real power. In addition to fiercely defending her empire and implementing reforms, she delivered 16 children in just 19 years. She declared that if she hadn't been constantly pregnant, she would have led her troops into battle herself. The empress ruthlessly utilized her 13 surviving children as political pawns, arranging powerful marriages across Europe. Smallpox haunted her family, claiming several of her children. To combat this threat, Maria Theresa championed the new life-saving smallpox inoculation for her offspring. Among her children were Ferdinand, Marie Antoinette, Queen of France, and Maximilian Francis, Archbishop. Overcome with jealousy over Francis's many mistresses, Maria Theresa created a chastity commission to crack down on prostitution, homosexuality, and adultery, secretly hoping to catch her husband in the act. After 29 years of marriage, Francis died, and Maria Theresa mourned him in black for the remainder of her life. She eventually contracted smallpox herself and passed away at the age of 63. Maria Carolina inherited her mother Maria Theresa's incredible baby-making ability. She was very close to her younger sister, Marie Antoinette, who would become the future Queen of France. Maria Theresa had already promised 3 of Maria Carolina's sisters to King Ferdinand of Naples and Sicily, but all 3 tragically died of smallpox. Maria Carolina, next in line to marry him, was terrified. She wept and begged not to go, convinced that the marriage was cursed. Unheeded, she was sent off to Italy at the age of 15. Upon meeting her husband, she felt an instant dislike. She found him unattractive and was put off by his crude complaints about their wedding night. Nonetheless, Maria Carolina fulfilled her duty and gave birth to 17 children, though only 7 survived to adulthood. Since Ferdinand was a weak ruler, Maria Carolina quickly seized power, mirroring her mother's approach by using her surviving children for political marriages across Europe. When Napoleon invaded, the family fled to Austria in search of assistance from her nephew, Emperor Francis I. Before Ferdinand could reclaim his thrones, the stressed Queen Maria Carolina was found dead on her floor, surrounded by papers. She had suffered a stroke at 62. Tragically, she never witnessed Napoleon's defeat or her husband's return. Born in 1665, Anne was the daughter of the future King James II. She married Prince George of Denmark at 80. Their lives became a heartbreaking narrative of loss. Their first child was a stillborn daughter, followed by Mary and Anne Sophia. When the girls were nearly 2 and 1, the family contracted smallpox, leading Anne to miscarry and both daughters to perish. The devastated couple often sat silently, holding hands in their grief. Over 16 years and endured 18 pregnancies, losing each child to miscarriage, stillbirth, or early death. Only a few of her children lived long enough to be named. Her 7th child, Prince William, Duke of Gloucester, survived the longest. He was Anne's pride and joy and the last hope for the Stuart dynasty. Tragically, he died at age 11 from an unknown illness. Her eighth, Mary, and ninth, George, children were born alive and baptized, yet both died within hours. Her 10th pregnancy ended with miscarried twins, too premature to identify. Doctors now believe Anne suffered from Hughes syndrome, a condition that makes it nearly impossible for blood to flow through tiny fetal veins. A simple aspirin could have saved her babies, a heartbreaking thought. Now we reach the record holder, Darren Dediani, Queen of Georgia, who gave birth to an astonishing 23 children. Born a Georgian princess in 1738, Darajan was married off at just 12 years. Old to the 30-year-old future King Heraclius II, he already had 4 sons from a previous marriage. Over the next 30 years, Queen Darajan delivered 23 children, of whom 13 survived to adulthood. Darajan was fiercely determined for her sons to inherit the throne rather than her stepsons. She pressed Heraclius to sign a will stating that after his eldest son George ruled, the throne would pass to her sons. After Heraclius died, King George III immediately tore up the will, claiming his stepmother had coerced his father. This led to intense rivalry between George and his stepmother and her 5 surviving sons. Miran, Alexander, and Parnaz, who sought powerful allies. George aligned himself with Russia, while Darajan's sons sought help from Iran. Alexander attempted a coup but failed, leading to Darajan's arrest and imprisonment. When George III died in 1800, Russia intervened. Darajan implored Tsar Alexander I to make one of her sons king instead of George's son, Prince David. Instead, the Tsar made the shocking decision to annex Georgia, ending 1,000 years of Bagration's dynasty rule. He forced Darajan and her family into exile in Russia for surveillance. The once powerful queen spent her final years in a modest house in St. Petersburg, dying there in 1807 at age 69. These queens were not merely mothers. They were dynastic warriors who endured physical and emotional extremes that most of us cannot begin to fathom. Their wombs were battlegrounds, and their children were both their greatest loves and their most valuable political tools in a brutal, high-stakes Game of Thrones. Their stories serve as shocking, heartbreaking reminders of the crushing weight of royal duty. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to support our work. Never miss an upload. Like this vid, drop a comment, and share it with others to help us grow this historical community.